Hi guys, and welcome back to another Mavic 4 Pro video, but we're not talking about the Mavic 4 Pro today. In today's video we are giving the full attention towards this beautiful controller I have right here, the RC Pro 2. Now, I might have been a little hard on this controller in my initial first impression unboxing review, although I do stand by a lot of the critiques I did give it. But we're gonna get into all of that, the pros, the cons, but most importantly, we're gonna find out if it's worth it to get this controller over the RC2. So with that said, let's break this controller down and then we'll wrap up this video with some final thoughts.
Alright, so let's start off with the good stuff, the 7-inch display. So what we're looking at right here is a 7-inch display that's more than twice as bright as the RC2's display, and we're talking 1600 nits sustained, peaking at 2000 nits compared to just 700 nits on the RC2. Now that means you will get very clear visuals even in direct sunlight. Now something else is that this LED panel also has a very deep contrast. It has 10-bit color and it also has 98% DCI P3 coverage, which means that it's very color accurate. So it's basically like having a Pro HDR monitor built into your controller. And they really did think about ease of use when they made this. When it's closed, the screen sits flat over the controls, and when you flip it up, it powers on automatically with the sticks popping right into place. So there's no need for a power button or any screwing on sticks. It's just ready to fly in just a few seconds. But there is a power button on top here that you can also use if that's what you prefer. Now you can also tilt the screen to whatever is comfortable, and one of the coolest, maybe most hyped up features is that it doesn't just tilt, it also rotates. And when you do this, the RC Pro 2 automatically tells the drone to flip the gimbal for vertical shooting. Now for the build itself, the RC Pro 2 feels premium. And around the edges you get a USB-C for charging and data, you get a micro SD card slot, and you also get 128 gigabytes of built-in storage, and on top of that you also get a full-sized HDMI port for external monitors. Now on top here we also find fold-out external antennas. Now this runs on DJI's new 04 Plus transmission system, giving you a very strong connection and a very long range. Now DJI claims it's up to 30 kilometers with the Mavic 4 Pro, and this also works with the other DJI drones using the 04 Plus transmission systems like the Mavic 4 Pro, the Air 3, the Air 3S and the Mini 4 Pro. However, it won't work with the older 03 models, so keep that in mind. If we take a look under the hood of this controller, it is basically an Android tablet in disguise. It runs DJI's custom Android-based OS, so this means you can install whatever you want, whether that is YouTube, Spotify or any Android apps. It also has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, so you can go online for updates, grab files or pair your Bluetooth headphones if you want to listen privately. Now there's also an inbuilt speaker and microphone, and the speaker you can use that to watch content or playback, and with the microphone you can use that to record your voice while you're out flying, so you can take note and this will get saved with the screen recording. And not only that, if you want better audio, this controller also supports the DJI mic systems out of the box, so you can plug in a DJI Mic 2 or a Mic 1 receiver and you can start recording with minimal setup. Something else on top of that is that DJI also added an in-app noise reduction to cut the drone prop noise if you're talking while flying. And also, before I forget, you get a DJI flight simulator on this controller that you only get with this controller as well. Alright, so with all these features, how long does it actually last? Well, DJI advertises up to 4 hours of battery life on the RC Pro 2. Well, that's presumably under normal fairly usage like moderate screen brightness, etc. Now I tested it both for flying and for streaming video, and for the flying test I started at 100%, I set the screen brightness to a max of 1600 nits, and I just flew around just capturing shots using normal movements while switching between sports, normal and cine modes. And I also flew at different distances to make the test as realistic as possible. When the drone wanted to return to home, I still had 85% left on the controller. That means roughly 15% is used per battery, so the controller should easily last through at least 6 batteries. Now, since this controller also runs on an OS, it can also be used like a mini tablet. That is why I also tested it for streaming. And for this, I also cranked the screen brightness to a max of 1600 nits. I maxed out the speaker volume and I looped Men in Black on repeat. Basically the most draining scenario I could come up with. It lasted around 5 hours and 13 minutes before dropping to 1%. Honestly, that's not bad at all considering the screen and audio were going full blast the whole time. Alright, so finally let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is the price. It retails around 1100 euros over here, which is roughly 730 euros more than the standard DJI RC2 controller. Now that's a huge jump in cost, it's almost 3 times the price of the RC2, so I think it's fair to say that this isn't aimed at the casual hobbyist. Now for most people just flying for fun or who prioritize travel-friendly gear, the RC2 is probably going to be perfectly fine, but the RC Pro 2 does offer far more power and functionality for that money. So what you're actually paying for is that glorious screen, the beefed up antennas and the range, the faster internals, the ability to browse YouTube and download third-party apps. You get a full-sized HDMI port, great audio. So in my view, yes, it is expensive, but it also earns its price for professional creators or enthusiasts who need what it offers.
Alright, so I think it's fair to say that after using this controller now for a couple of weeks, I have a little bit of a different view on this controller. Call it a little more respect maybe. But with that said, I still don't like the way they kind of force this controller upon you. So what do I mean by that? Well, so if you want only the higher end drone but you don't want the controller, you're not really able to, customize that. So if we ask the question, do you need it? I've done a lot of research on this controller. I read a lot in Facebook groups, on Reddit and stuff like that. And my understanding is that most people don't need this controller. People want it, like really badly. They want this controller. That is my impression of it. But do I recommend this controller? Well, it's not perfect and it's definitely not for everyone. It's big, it's bulky, it adds way more weight than the regular RC, and it's extremely expensive. But if you fly a lot, take content creation seriously, you want that big bright screen, value long distance flying, or honestly if you just want something that feels unique and premium, draws attention, makes you stand out in a crowd, and you got the money, then yeah, I'll happily recommend this controller. And I also recommend that you hit like and subscribe so you don't miss out my next videos. Take care and have a good day.